What's squelch? So there's a video about to start. Why are you drinking like that?
That beer's gone to your head, that's it.
I mean, like one of them little 13-year-old girls that has a cider and acts drunk.
Yeah. Don't spill it on any of this, whatever you do. What are you going to be like while I'm talking?
I'll just sit and look at this like this. Right, you go on.
That's putting me off. You might have to just not do it. You might have to just sit there and just look at like you know people doing clubs like that.
Yeah. Right, go for it.
Ringway. Yeah. Hi guys, hope you're all okay. Welcome back to the channel. I wanted to do a video today that I've been planning for a while, and it is called, as you can see, What Do Your Friends Think of Amateur Radio? So I'm with Martin from Martin Zero. I'll put a link to his channel in the description. We've done a few videos together in the past, and he's one of the few friends I have that aren't into radio and don't know anything about amateur radio. And I did a bit of a social experiment with him where I said, what would you ask me about amateur radio? You know nothing about it. What sort of frequently asked questions would you have? So he's drawn up some questions which I'm sure as we go through this video a lot of you will be familiar with. So like when you take your car to be serviced or MOT, then the guy gets in and goes, "Oh, is that a CB? Is that still going?" And you're like, "No, it's not CB. It's similar, but it's not." And you have to explain everything. And a lot of people just don't get radio, and a lot of people don't understand what it is. So I thought it'd be fun to just do a video with an Aldi special brew, just to go over some of these questions. And yeah, if you're watching this, then it obviously turned out. So yeah, I said to Martin, just write down some questions. He's jotted them down. I don't know what he's going to ask me. I've got some equipment here that I've dug out to sort of inflame his senses a little bit. So yeah, here goes.
I've just thought of something. Well, I didn't. I thought of it on the way here in the car. And it was my first introduction to is it ham or ham? Ham as in a sandwich?
Ham as in a ham sandwich, and amateur radio as in...
But why did they say ham when it's amateur radio? Why did they say ham?
I don't know. I should have researched this first.
You should have.
It's a bit of a funny one.
Because they say ham radio, and I'm thinking, well, if it's amateur, why is it ham, a joint of ham?
I don't know. I should have been more prepared and Googled that.
I should have been. Well...
And you never told me you had an experience with amateur radio.
Well, I didn't have an experience. Well, I did. When I was about 6 or 7 years old, my mum used to go to this lady called Mrs. Brown to take a sewing to her. She was a little old lady that lived in a flat, and I got tagged along, and we used to go to Mrs. Brown's. Mrs. Brown had a sewing machine, and at the back of Mrs. Brown's was Me's Radio. It was a shop where you could rent a telly, and we used to rent tellies from there. And the guy that ran it was called Victor Me. And he was into amateur radio, and my mum looked out of Mrs. Brown's window one day and said, "Oh, what's that big aerial on the back of Me's radio?" And of course Mrs. Brown said, "Victor's into radio. He's a ham radio person." And we were like listening to this story.
Ham radio person. At least you got the terminology down.
Ham radio. And apparently she said, Mrs. Brown said, "Oh, you can hear him at night going, 'Victor to Japan, Victor to Japan.'" And of course I'm 7-year-old listening to all this, and I was like, right, okay. But, you know, so it sounded very interesting.
Yeah.
Would he have said Victor to Japan?
Probably not. Well, I don't know. It depends.
Call it a country.
Yeah, if he was a pirate, he would have maybe be calling Japan. He would have had a call sign.
It might have been Canada, Victor to Canada.
Well,
but this is Mrs. Brown's version back in 1970.
It might have been. He might have been like a medium wave pirate.
It may have been.
But yeah, that's quite interesting.
Yeah, Victor Me. He was Me's Radio. He used to in North Manchester.
You get that? Well, if anyone knows Me's Radio,
Victor Me were called, and he had his own radio.
Leave a comment in the box below. So I go on to Martin about radio, and I mention stuff about radio to him, and I show him bits of radio, and we subscribe to each other on YouTube, and he sees my radio videos, and he asks a lot of questions. So.
Yeah, but I have to ask basic questions, don't I? Because
Yeah, no, I understand that.
Because you know, this is.
Because to an outsider, it's alien, isn't it?
Yeah, it's what bus inspectors carry. Anyway,
yeah.
Right. So I suppose I've got some questions for you. So radio, okay, is it not been kind of like usurped by mobile phones?
Yeah, it has. Yeah. So like a lot of stuff like mobile phones and social media is killing radio.
Because somebody said to me the other day about one of my videos, I was doing a little bit of urban exploring, and somebody said, "Oh, you need a two-way radio." With the guy up top, when you go down in a tunnel or in a river, and you can radio him. And I thought, I can text him.
It is handy because radio sometimes gets through where mobile phones don't. So if there's coverage issues with mobile phones, some of these radios here don't need a network. Some of them operate independently of a network.
Really?
Yeah.
What? It'll just go radio to radio?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's quite good.
So if you have one of these and I have one of these, then we can just talk. So if there was a full power cut, no mobile phone networks, no internet, these are still working.
Which is unlikely to happen.
Yeah. Which is unlikely to
probably
happen.
never happen.
But yeah, you're right. You actually make a good point. It has been usurped by mobile phones and social media. It is sort of like the slow death of the hobby.
If we was in a tunnel, could we talk to each other?
If
Would
we
they
were
talk?
If we were both in a tunnel, yeah. If I was in the tunnel and you were above the tunnel on the outside, probably not.
Oh, well, that would be quite good then, wouldn't
Yeah.
it? Because in a tunnel you won't get a mobile phone signal, would you?
Yeah,
So these could directly talk to each
Yeah.
other. Now I get that. That's good. That
It does have its practical
quite
uses.
like that. Yeah. Well, why do like people still use them? Let's say you go to the Trafford Centre, and you've got the security guards walking around with these. Why don't they just phone each other?
Because rather than pay for, let's say there's 250 staff that carry radios in the Trafford Centre, rather than pay for an individual mobile phone contract for them.
Are these cheaper?
Yeah, it is cheaper.
All right.
Yeah, and it's for short range communication, so you buy.
I suppose if you buy a mobile phone, everyone's going to be like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So do you need a license for all this?
Um,
Because I take it you're broadcasting.
Yeah, so for amateur radio, you do need a license. You do. To transmit legally, so you get a call sign. So like mine is M3HHY. So M3 is
Who
like the
gave
license.
you that? How did you
Ofcom.
pick that?
No, you can pick them, but it has. So the M3 is a prefix. So the M3 is basically a foundation. So there's 3 tiers: foundation, intermediate, and like full.
Tiers of what?
Of license. So they allow you to go on different bands and have different power.
So what's yours?
Mine's an M3, just foundation, the bottom.
I thought you was like pretty.
No. But
Kinda
yeah,
looks up to
you
you.
have to have a license. People do transmit without licenses, and even for like business. So if people use walkie-talkies, radios for business, they have to have a license, which covers a specific frequency. It's just a way of keeping everything in check, so it's not overrun and overcrowded. But yeah, you have to have a license.
Alright. So, can I do it? Can anyone do this? Can I just buy this and start?
Yeah, you.
You're saying a license, but do you go post office and buy a license?
No, so you'll speak to like a local radio club, and then they'll do training with you over a few weekends or a few weeknights at a club, and then they'll put you through your test, and it's just.
Well,
a
hang
short
on,
test.
but the local club is not a governing body.
Yeah, it's Ofcom.
So why don't I go to Ofcom to get me license and
Doesn't
training?
work like that. Yeah, they sort of, you go through them, and then they send the license, and Ofcom then grant you a license.
So Ofcom must.
I think it's a way of Ofcom not having to invest in training people.
I get it. So, but these local clubs must have an affiliation with Ofcom, or
Yeah, they do. Yeah. So they
you've got to have a certain standard to be okay.
yeah,
by
I think
Ofcom.
it's RSGB as well, but don't
What?
quote me. It's
What's
the long
that?
Radio Society of Great Britain.
Alright.
But they don't have any control over licensing. But I think they sort of do like the syllabus. It's a long time since I did mine.
But what happens if I just go and buy one and start using it?
Well, I'll probably get slammed for saying this. Probably not a lot, because Ofcom don't really govern amateur radio anymore. Some people will argue that they do, and that you can get in trouble for it. Back in sort of the 70s, like the 60s and 70s, it was like the GPO, and then in the 80s, which you know the GPO, obviously,
Yeah.
and then in the 80s and 90s, it was the DTI, which was the Department for Trade and Industry, and now it's Ofcom. And what they used to do is listen out for pirates, people transmitting illegally, people messing about, and then they used to hunt them down and slap them with pretty hefty fines.
But I won't have a call sign, will I? Or do I make one up?
So yeah, basically anyone can get into the hobby, and in my opinion, there's 3 types of people left in the hobby. There's your old boy who started it off, your G3s and your G2 call signs, who basically started everything off. There's a lot of them still around, but unfortunately they are a dying breed. That's number 1. 2. Number 3, people like me, who's like sort of like a modern day radio amateur that gets into like the digital side of things and the internet linking and stuff like that. So yeah, that's the types.
You missed number 2.
Number 2.
Yeah, who's number 2? Right, so in the 80s, when I was a teenager, CB came out. What's the difference?
Basically, the only difference is the frequency. CB came out illegally in the UK, and that was what the buzz was.
Yeah,
And that was like the early
yeah.
social media. And then when it actually became legal, that's when the hype sort of died. So basically, the only difference is the frequency. CB you don't have to have a license for, and CB is more short range as a rule. And people use like higher power and big antennas, and they do get further, and they use stuff like sideband. Have you heard of sideband? I said sidebands here. Single sideband.
Yeah, I think
Possibly.
I think I've heard of it.
Yeah. So people use that to get further, but yeah, it's basically the frequency. But this is a CB radio here.
Do
So-
people still do CB?
Yeah, it used to be massive. It used to be like basically what Facebook is today, and then it died off. People still do use it. There's a lot of people on there that just go and like key up and mess about and things now, but people
1.4
do
for a copy.
exact 1.9. Oh yeah, 1.4 for copy. Yeah, like 1.9 a Rog.
1.9, yeah.
1.9 a Rog.
1.9 for a copy.
Yeah.
Yeah. 1.9 was the truckers channel. I got told.
Yeah. So like, if you go up to like the local hill here and listen on CB, you will still hear people, and you can still chat to people on it, but it's not as big as it was. A lot of people do confuse the two. Like I said at the beginning, like when I get my car MOT, the guys go, "Oh, is that CB?" And you're like, yeah, but it's not. It is different.
You just
things.
say it for ease.
I think there's a snobbery between some amateur radio operators have a bit of a snobbery towards CB.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Is
why.
it? Right.
I think it's because they've got a license for it now to train.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah. Who'd you talk to? Because who'd you talk to?
So like on this radio, this is VHF and UHF amateur. So you talk to other amateur radio operators. So like you make friends that way. It sounds like ridiculous, but I've made quite a few friends through radio. On CB, you talk to other CBers. So there's no amateur radio operators give their call sign on CB because it's a different band. And then these here are called network radios. So these are basically mobile phones that operate PTT, so push to talk. So that is a push to talk. The push to talk. They operate PTT apps, and you can talk to anyone. I could talk to you on that without a license because it's not technically.
So I'm thinking this
Radio.
is more the modern day CB then.
This is sort of taken over, yeah. This is getting bigger and bigger, so it's in all the radio magazines. These are called network radios.
Right.
So it's not technically radio, but it is because, like, your mobile phone is a radio. It transmits a signal and receives a signal.
Yeah.
Exactly, very similar technology to everything you see in front of us here. Right. But you can talk to anyone. So if you're on amateur radio, you can talk to amateur radio operators. You can talk to, there's licensed free bands, which like little walkie-talkies use and stuff like that, where you can just talk to like strangers. So you talk to a lot of people say, "Do you talk to strangers?" And yeah, you do, I suppose. You talk to your mates, then you meet strangers on there.
Right. Nice way to make new friends, isn't it? So, how much does that cost?
That costs about 150 quid, something like that.
And
that's a digital radio. You basically, with radio equipment, a lot of the time you get what you pay for.
Right, show me the most expensive piece of kit here.
This.
What is that?
That's a scanner.
But it doesn't transmit.
No, it doesn't. Just receives. That was about £1,200 when it come out.
What can I listen to on that?
You can listen to CB on it. You can listen to amateur stuff. You could listen to airports, taxis, security, space station, International Space Station.
Really?
Yeah.
What do they talk about? Have you listened to them?
Yeah, they have amateur radio links where they talk to Earth on it. Yeah, I've received Tim Peake. The astronaut Tim Peake. There's a video on the channel. I'll send it you later. Where I actually listened to Tim Peake talking from the space station.
Oh, you listened to him. What was he saying?
He was talking to a school. They were asking him questions, a bit like this. Exactly like this.
Wow.
Yeah, you've got stuff like this here, which these are like 18 quid.
18 quid?
Yeah, and you can transmit and receive and talk on that.
What's squelch? Something happens to me when I walk through mud.
Right, basically, squelch. So if you listen to a radio, you have squelch, and if you turn the squelch up, that you hear, it stops that. So it takes it out of that, so you just hear a signal coming in. If you lower the dial again, you'll hear, and that's called an open squelch, and that's for listening to weaker signals. So basically, it sets it to a level where only signals above that level can be received by you. Does that make sense?
Right, yeah. Because my next question was going to be, well, why don't you have the squelch so it's going...
So
I can just turn it down.
Yeah, so if you do, you'll hear more, and you can just turn the volume down. So a lot of people operate like that, but it does get annoying after a while. So
it attenuates weaker signals.
Yeah.
Oh, so
Yeah, sort of, yeah. It allows you to hear into the noise, into that rather than cutting it off, and you'll only hear a certain level. Right. So if I'm not quite getting to you and you turn the squelch up, you won't hear me. If you turn your squelch down, you'll hear me in the noise.
Got it. Squelch. Always wondered what squelch was.
Yeah.
So, where did you learn all this? What club did you go to?
So I got in touch with the lady that was part of the Witness and Runcorn club.
Why Witness and Runcorn when you live over here?
Just because I knew who she was. And I was really shy at the time, so I sort of knew who she was. I'd spoke to her on the phone and sort of got to know her, so she was like the
She
easiest.
sort of took you in hand.
Yeah, she took me like under her wing. So
Trained you on the radio.
Yeah. So I went to. It's actually now it's actually abandoned. It's an old anti-aircraft war room on top of the hill at Frodsham. They did the courses in there. I learnt over a weekend, Saturday, Sunday afternoon did the test.
But what is there to learn? You say I learn what?
They teach you how to set up a radio station. But because
I'm not being ignorant when I do that.
That's a fair question.
What is there to learn?
Basically, like I said, if you have the wrong antenna or your antenna isn't tuned properly, you'll do damage to your radio.
So you learn the technical aspects of...
Exactly, yeah. So you learn some technical stuff. So basic operation, setup, basic etiquette, because you have to give your call sign, things like that. There is an etiquette to it. They teach you like a little bit about electronics, just it's sort of enough to get you going. So yeah, I just did it in a weekend, passed the test. I did it with my dad actually, and he never actually took his call sign up. So yeah, he passed the course as well. And then I sent off, you can either choose, so the M3 at the time was a given, now it's M6 for foundation holders, but it was M3 at the time. And you can choose so the M3 is the prefix and you get 3 letters. So you could choose them and if they're available you get them, but you had to wait longer. And I just wanted to get on the air, so I just sent it off and HHY was what came back.
Right. So you taught someone that's M0, the call sign.
They're a full license
You're
holder.
a little bit in awe of them.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, no.
No.
It doesn't make the operator. Anyone can study.
There's not that hierarchy that goes on.
There is a little bit, depending on who you talk to. I've got mates who are M0s and you know, there's none of that, but some people do. But it's fair enough because they study and they actually have to build kit. They have to actually
I'm going to say, what have they learned above the foundation?
Learn a lot more technical stuff, and then they're allowed a higher power level. So I can only run 10 watts of power. So I have a power supply which lets this radio put 10 watts out, and I can't exceed that. And then I think like an M0, they get, I think it's like 100 watts, a couple of 100 watts or something. So there's nothing to stop you now getting, that would make an amazing video.
What?
Martin Zero gets his radio license. It's pretty cheap, it's not expensive to do either actually.
No.
And it's not hard either, anyone can pass it. Even kids pass it, like I think the youngest amateur radio operator is like 6 who passed the test. It would be good to get you through your test. That would be really good.
Yeah, it's whether there's no point doing it if I wouldn't go on and do it. You know what I mean?
That's only down to you, though, isn't it?
I would just want to go out on a, making a video and just.
Yeah, you can do that. Nothing to stop you doing that.
No.
Just depends what frequencies you go on.
Have you ever met a girlfriend through it? Or have you got a girlfriend?
Have I got a girlfriend?
Yeah.
I've got a girlfriend.
Oh, that's nice. Does she
She would ask the same questions as this.
Does she do radio? Yeah. She doesn't.
She doesn't get it.
What does she think of it?
She doesn't understand it. She thinks I talk to strangers, and it's full of old men.
Right.
Except me.
Are you the youngest person that you know doing it?
No. I know a lad called Jake. Jake, if you're watching this, hello. A lad called Jake. He's not far down the road. He's like in his teens. That I've been speaking to him for a bit, and he's got his license. Yeah, I know a few younger people. It does still attract young people.
Was it?
Yeah, because it's sort of been like, I was going to say jizzed up then. It's sort of been like a bit modernised through the DMR, like digital. DMR is digital. That sort of side of things, and the network radio side of things, it just sort of appeals to a younger audience. And a lot of people, like like police cadets, army cadets, they have a bit of a they test the water radio. So they get interested through that.
Right.
So it still does appeal to the younger, but I would say the demographic or the sort of age for radio is between mine and your age. That sort of age block is the sort of person that's getting into radio. Well,
I'm a lot younger than you, so.
Yeah.
Oh shit! Martin to Japan. Oh, did you say all that? So yeah, that's what I wanted to ask. Did you say all this? Did you say over and out and all this lot?
Some people say over and out. Some people say over. But
why do you say over? I presume it's so that you don't end up doing this over each other.
I think, yeah, and I think sort of like years ago, you were probably hearing the voice like in the noise, like before squelch, possibly. So
Right.
it was just to mark the. I think it's in case like you
It's a
lose
full
somebody.
stop.
Yeah. So the transmission's ended. There's
Right.
no more. Because sometimes if you're listening to a weak signal, you don't know if they've unkeyed, or some people just unkey and you think, "Have they unkeyed, or was that an accident? Was that
What do you mean unkeyed?
Like let go of the microphone.
All right.
So if I'm not talking to you now, I go.
One call for a
So I'm
coffee.
gonna go out on Monday. You think, well, has his radio gone off, whatever? So like you go, I'm gonna go out on Monday. You know what you're up to? Back to you or over or give you a call sign. It just marks the end of the transmission. So,
But if you're still transmitting to me and I go, oh where you going? Do you
won't
not
hear
get
you.
that?
I wouldn't hear you.
Right, got it. So that's why you say
Unless
over.
we were talking on duplex, but that's another story. I'm not going to go into that.
Right.
It can be done, but yeah, as a general rule, yeah, if you key up, I won't hear you. I'll hear you, but you won't hear me if I key back over you because the transmission's just sort of competing against each other. So yeah, there's like an etiquette to use on the radio. So like if you give your call sign at the end, so if I'm talking on the radio, I'll go. Yeah, so that's everything I did last week, Martin. Back to you from M3HHY. So that's me saying this is it. So anyone listening knows that I'm M3HHY, and you know that I've ended the transmission and passed it back to you. It's just general etiquette, but some people don't. Some people just go, yeah, back to you, or they'll go like, yeah, so that's what happened last week, and then they'll be, yeah, nice one. Some people are more relaxed with the etiquette. I like to use because that's how I was taught. It depends how you were taught. So I was taught to give you call sign at the end of every transmission. You don't have to.
Right.
Well, that's just what I do, and that's just a habit.
Right.
So no, we don't go out over and out and Roger Dodger and all that. I say Rog sometimes as like a laugh.
What's Roger?
I don't know. Rog.
I mean,
Roger.
I think is it not like an affirmative? Roger, got
Probably,
that.
yeah,
Roger.
Yeah. I want to say it's something to do with the army, but I don't know.
I imagine it is something to do with the military.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah, Roger got that. Roger.
Yeah, Roger Dodge.
Yeah.
Roger Dipole.
Stop calling me Roger.
Yeah, Roger Diddley Dipole.
Your name ain't Roger.
No.
Right, so that's got an aerial on. That's got an aerial on. That's aerial? Or where's the aerial for that? Is it on your roof?
Yeah, so I have a big antenna on the back of the house.
Here?
Yeah. So it's on the wall above here.
Oh,
Can you see it? That pole. So it's on like brackets and it goes above the house.
right.
Yeah. Big height is might. So the higher the antenna, the better off you're going to be.
Yeah.
And yeah, height is might. It's like people obsessed with like power output and stuff like that, but it's the main thing is if you have the radio is only as good as your antenna. So you could spend a couple of grand on an amazing radio.
Yeah.
It's only as good as your antenna. If you have a crap antenna, it won't work right.
Right, well, okay, then question then again then.
Yeah.
If that's a CB,
Yeah.
what's your CB name?
I don't have one.
Why
But
not?
people used to have handles. I just don't.
Yeah,
I never actually really got into CB properly, so I don't have one.
So why have you got this?
It would probably be rubber turkey.
Why rubber turkey?
Don't know. A friend of mine gave me that.
Is it? Have you ever had it on?
Yeah. I do go on sometimes for a bit of a chat, but not often.
Might meet a nice girlfriend.
Yeah. A lady breaker.
Yeah.
A lady breaker. 19 a lady breaker.
Yeah. Is that what they do?
That's what they say. Yeah. 19 a lady breaker.
Alright. 19 a lady breaker.
Exactly. Yeah. This is rubber turkey. So Martin, you've had a chance to grill me there and ask me a lot of questions that I get asked a lot, and I'm sure a lot of these guys will. So I'm going to ask you now. What do you, my friend, think of amateur radio?
I think it's a bit like Train Spotting, isn't it? It's one of the quaint, old, quintessentially British hobbies, but it's not, is it? Quintessentially
Yeah, I know what you
British.
mean though, yeah.
But it's one of those things that has its roots, perhaps. I imagine it's got its roots back in the
past.
in the 50s with men going in sheds with big things like that.
Exactly,
and
yeah.
Yeah, so it's a nice way to meet new people, isn't it?
Do you understand any more about it?
Well, but yeah, it's an overview, isn't it? Kind of an overview.
Yeah. You'll learn more when we put you in for your test. M6 Martin 0 coming soon.
Yeah, okay.
Would you do your test?
Well, yeah, I'd do it. It's whether I'd continue doing the hobby afterwards.
To be honest, I don't get.
Well, I could talk to you, couldn't I?
You talk to me,
Or I
yeah.
could just ring you.
I'm never on. I'm never on the radio, so
You know, why not?
I just don't get time.
Well,
I go on to like to and from work, but that's about it. Really.
well, you're not a phony then.
Huh? Yeah, I am. Yeah, I'm the worst type of radio amateur.
Why?
Because I talk it all, and then I'll never get time to go on. I go through phases where I'm on all the time, and then I leave it for a bit.
Right. You're a bit like your channel's a bit like BBC Two, isn't it?
In what way?
Very niche and very informative.
Yes. I don't practice what I preach.
BBC Two.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. That was quite a good insight. I'm sorry for the moronic questions,
No,
but
it's
you
not.
know you've got to start from the ground and work up, haven't you?
And there'll be more of that when he gets his M6. Thanks very much for watching, guys. Appreciate any comments, suggestions, any questions that Martin didn't ask that you get asked that do your head in, or that you find funny, then drop them in the box below. And other than that, guys, I'll say 7-3 for now, and I'll leave it there. Thanks so much for watching, and Martin's channel is in the description. Go and check that out as well. Cheers.
Bye.
See you again.